happened in a packed college basketball gym on December 16, 1970. Columbia, South Carolina, where the University of Maryland, coached by Charles Lefty Driesell, was being beaten badly by the second-ranked team in the country then, the University of South Carolina. Down by more than 30 points, a fist fight developed between John Reebok, one of those New York City toughs imported by Frank McGuire to play basketball wherever Frank McGuire coaches, and Driesell. The pandemonium was such that the game was called at that point. Driesell charged later that it was Reebok's fault. McGuire charged that Driesell started it all and, in fact, hit himself in the mouth. Anyone who has been around Lefty Driesell for any length of time cannot completely discount that possibility, slight as it may seem. We will talk to the man who has vowed to make University of Maryland basketball the UCLA of the East in a moment. Basketball at the University of Maryland in the second half of this century has fallen right in behind pro football and pro baseball here in Washington. There were too few years during the 1960s that Maryland boasted a winning basketball team. And then, like the stroke which brought Ted Williams to the Senators and Vince Lombardi to the Redskins, Maryland somehow persuaded Charles Lefty Driesell to come coach basketball. Last year, Maryland won 13 games, lost 12 in their first winning season in the past 5 years. The record will be better than that this season. Some say that Lefty Driesell's record will be better because you scheduled what are considered tough teams like Delaware and Buffalo and Temple and Lehigh and Loyola of Baltimore. Is that why your record will be better?
Well, I don't know. We didn't play that many tough teams last year, but I like to think we have a little better basketball team. But, you know, you can look at UCLA's record and see who they've been playing. The first tough road game that they had this year was against Notre Dame, and they lost. And I think, you know, we have 15 home games, and UCLA has about 13 or 14. So, you know, it's not really who you play that's that important. It's whether you win. And any time you beat a major college basketball team, you're doing a pretty good night's work.
After 16 or 17 games this year, are you surprised at your record? Did you expect it to be this good or even better?
Well, I don't know. I'm not overjoyed with our record. I think we've lost one or two games that we probably could have won, and we've won one or two. I didn't know whether we could win or not before the season started. I always think you can win them all, but realistically, I don't know if we should have, won some of them that we did win.
As if your cry since coming to Maryland was, we're going to be the UCLA of the East, and that's why I'm here. You have said that on more than one occasion that you wanted to make Maryland basketball that. The latest occasion was when you finally landed Tom McMillen last fall, and you again repeated the goal, and it went like this.
If I, as a coach, and my staff, if we can't recruit outstanding athletes to come to a school like this, then we're in the wrong profession. You know, and that's the reason I said I thought Maryland would be the UCLA of the East, and I think it will be. But we ain't won any championships yet, right? So I still got something to prove.
You think you're further along than that in being the UCLA of the East, especially after the presence of Tom McMillen and some of your other freshmen?
Well, I've been very pleased with our progress. You know, you never know who you're going to get. And recruiting's like looking in the future, you know, and that's hard to tell what's going to happen. I don't know who we're going to get this year. I think we're right in there with some good boys, and then once you get them, you can get boys with tremendous high school records, and some of them have already reached their peak, and they don't get much better. And then sometimes you can pick up boys that you didn't think were that good, and they get a whole lot better, like this Adrian boy over at Catholic University in town here. You know, a lot of people didn't think he was going to be that good a basketball player, and he's really doing well. So sometimes you get some boys that do better than you expect, and sometimes you get boys with big names, and they don't pan out so well. So. But I think all of our boys so far, our freshmen and sophomores that I've recruited since I've been at Maryland, are living up to their expectations, and I think we're going to be all right next year. I think next year we can play anybody in the country.
When you say you've got some boys with the big names, not you, but sometimes there are boys with big names who might not pan out, is that saying that Tom McMillen isn't panning out for you, or is he doing everything you expected of him?
No, I'm saying that, Tom McMillen right now hasn't scored any points for our varsity. I'd be greatly surprised if he doesn't, you know. But I'd say he's got to prove himself, and there's going to be a lot of people shooting for him next year and shooting for us. And we haven't proved anything. That's what I just said back there when Tom had signed. I think that's where
that's right.
Film clip came from. And, you know, we've got to prove it on the court. Tom's got to prove it on the court. And there are, you know, some people that have big reputations in high school that don't live up to it in college. I'd be surprised if Tom isn't a great one, though, or Lynn Elmore or Trimble or some of the other, Cartwright and Porak, I think are going to live up to their expectations, but there have been athletes that have not.
Lefty, you're on the road a lot. You play basketball most of the year. You recruit a lot of the year. Maybe you don't know exactly what UCLA looks like these days. So we've got some footage of exactly what UCLA is and what your goal is, and this is what they look like in 1971.
Oh, yeah, I'm quite familiar. You said I don't know what UCLA looks like. I know what they look like. I know who they got on their freshman team.
I get the feeling you tried to recruit the same people.
No, not really. I knew about Henry Bibb because he's from North Carolina, not too far from Davidson, where I used to coach. But, you know, I know that they start, I think, 4 seniors this year, too, see, and I know who they'll have back next year, and I don't know if we'll get a shot at playing them this year, but I think we may next year.
When you look at the UCLA basketball team, and they have been able, a lot of people give them a bad rap about because Lou Alcindor was there. They're a pretty balanced ball team, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they're a great ball club, and I understand that they have, I think, 4 red shirts this year that are all over 6'9", and they have a tremendous program going, and it wasn't built overnight. Coach Wooden's been there, what, 15, 16 years, and he didn't win a national championship until after he'd been coaching 9 or 10 or something like that, I think I've read. And he has a tremendous program. He's a great coach and a great person, and, you know, they're not going to be easy to beat, but I think that Maryland, the University of Maryland, has as much physical structure, and our university is located, you know, they're located in Hollywood, we're located in Washington, D.C., and I think we've got just as big an attraction for high school athletes as John Wooden does at UCLA, and that's the reason I said Maryland could be the UCLA of the East, because of the university's physical facilities and also the geographical location of schools.
Lefty, when you said that, when you first came, you did not have the freshmen to back it up. Maybe some people didn't believe that. When you got Tom McMillen, they began to believe you a little bit. And when Tom McMillen finally came to Maryland, and he had a brief news conference, these are the reasons he gave for coming to Maryland.
While I was in Europe, I reevaluated my situation and decision and began to see the advantages of Maryland in a different light. Maryland offers many advantages to me as a student athlete. To begin with, at Maryland I can fulfill my academic goals, one of which is to prepare myself adequately for a medical career. Secondly, I find this area very appealing to me in terms of its proximity to my hometown, and as the late Vince Lombardi commented, it's a great area because here is where history is made and the most important people in the world live. Thirdly, I have great respect for Coach Driesell, his staff, and program. I feel that the physical plant at Maryland is excellent. The press coverage is on a national level. And last but not least, I have great respect for the teammates that I will be associating with.
There are some people who might feel that there are still some holes in why Tom McMillen came to Maryland, or is that the entire story, those reasons?
Well, I think they were pretty good reasons, and I think that most of them are authentic. I mean, like I said, one of the reasons he stated was because of the Washington, D.C. area, because, and he said he had academic goals that he wanted to set, and, you know, the first semester we just got the boys' reports cards, and he got straight A's. I think he was taking 5 subjects, he got 5 A's. I don't know how many other freshmen at the University of Maryland did that this year. I doubt very seriously there are very many scholarship basketball players that got straight A's this time.
When he had given his intention to go to North Carolina, and you obviously must have thought that you had lost him then, how surprised were you when he decided to come to Maryland?
No, I didn't think that I had lost him because when he stated, he never signed anything. He said that he wanted to go there, And I talked to him. In fact, his parents called me and asked me what they could do, that they really weren't in favor of him making a decision at the time, but they didn't think it was the right time. And I told them, well, I didn't know if there was anything they could do. They didn't have to sign if they didn't want to, and just let Tom make his own decision. So, and I was in correspondence with him and with his brother Jay, so I knew that it wasn't definite that he was going to North Carolina. There was some doubt in his mind, possibly, and some doubt in his parents' mind. So, I wasn't greatly shocked that he came, but then again, I was greatly shocked because, I had a little bit of hope that he was coming, but I really didn't think that he was coming.
You have been described as quite a flamboyant character, and the incident we mentioned in the opening of this show concerning a fight in South Carolina earlier this year. People in the street in Washington know you, recognize you, and they have attitudes towards you, and we asked them what they thought of Lefty Driesell, and these are the answers they gave us.
Well, I think he's a fine man so far. He's usually getting up there to the top, and that whoever takes him, that he would be one of the best men. I think he's a great coach, one of the best coaches around the country today.
I think very highly of him, especially after the South Carolina game.
Oh, I'm a great admirer of Lefty's.
I think he's pretty great, pretty colorful.
I really have never watched the Maryland University game. I'm familiar with the name and understand he's quite a colorful character, but I've really never watched any of their games.
Oh, I don't know. I just does a good enough job, I guess,
People don't agree with him. True, but because a lot of people may not agree with you, that doesn't mean that you can express your own opinion. And he feels, or he says what he feels, and that's the way it is.
Lefty Driesell, I think that this is a very aggressive individual who's certainly innovative. If you think about the game that he had with South Carolina, I guess about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think this was a absolutely legal tactic that he used to beat that team. You'll notice since that time, I think South Carolina's lost about 3 games. I think this guy is an asset to college basketball.
If somebody was going to recruit you, maybe you'd want that film.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that many people knew who I was in Washington, but...
oh, come on now.
No, that's true. All I do is coach this basketball team out of Maryland. We have, I have to admit, gotten a lot of great publicity, and I'm very thankful for it, and I think it's good for our boys. And,
you wouldn't be surprised to find those people on the film come ask you for season tickets next year, would you?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to sell a few more because really I've been a little disappointed in that our students haven't filled it up more than they have,
Is that right? I did not know that.
Well, yeah, we've only had one sellout, actually. They would only allow us to sell, I think, 3,000 season tickets because they claimed they were going to come to the ball games, but we really only had one sellout, although the George Washington game was almost sold out.
Do you expect that stadium and that arena at Cole Fieldhouse to be sold out every game next year?
Well, I hope it will be, and I hope it'll be sold out for the remaining games this year.
We will come back and talk to you further about, why don't we talk about South Carolina, both games, if we can. Maybe we'll take a look at some of the Lefty Driesell humor in a moment.
Our goal this year was to win the national championship. We didn't win it, but we won 27 and lost 3, which ain't bad, is it? So, maybe we won't be the UCLA, the East Coast, but we're going to try to be that anyway.
Coach, would you describe yourself as an austere coach?
Pardon me?
Would you describe yourself as austere?
I don't even know what that word means. You have to get down to some of that country talk. I don't know what... Oh, you know what that means? George probably knows, right?
Is that the kind of humor that wows them?
No, I don't know. I really didn't know. What is an austere coach? I don't know what it
Well,
is.
austere means tough.
Tough? Yeah, well, I don't know.
Strong disciplinarian.
Yeah, well.
Are you?
Sometimes I'm tough. If we're losing, I get tough. If we're winning, I'm very easy to get along with.
Did Will Hetzel think you were easy to get along with?
I think he did. I never had many problems with Will. Truthfully, I I expected some when I put him on the bench here right at the first of the year, you know. I didn't know how he would react. There was a kid that averaged 21, 22 points a game the year before, and he just wasn't doing what I wanted him to do, so I figured the best way to get him to do that was sit him on the bench a little bit, and I thought he might, you know, get his back up and, you know, not hustle. But I really admired Will for that, and I think, you know, it made me respect him a great deal more. I think it made a better man out of him because he really worked harder and won a position and did a great job for me.
You didn't mind his hair?
Oh, no, I wasn't particularly fond of long hair and a beard, but, you know, eventually he cut it off. And if you see him now, I saw him at Christmas time. He came home from Europe. His hair is shorter than mine. You know, I think he just did that to get a little ink, you know, a little publicity.
Do you have no long hair, no sideburn, no mustache, no beard sort of a policy at Maryland?
Well, I really haven't. I think most of my players know how I feel about it, and sometimes if I think their hair is getting too long, I tell them and they cut it off. And, you know, I'm not real strict about it. If the whole team came to me and said we wanted to wear long hair and they felt real strong about it, I'd probably let them have long hair, but so far they haven't, and I think they don't mind getting a haircut.
What really happened, not what really happened, most of the people know what really happened, but do you have anything to add to the fight that happened at Columbia, South Carolina in December of 1970?
No, I don't have anything to add. Truthfully, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. You know, we got back at them by beating them, and I don't think we'd have beat them if they hadn't had that fight. If they'd have gone ahead and whipped us by about 35 like they were right on the way to doing, I don't believe my boys would ever come back and beat them here. So, you know, it's worth getting hit for. That's what I've told a lot of people. I get hit in the jaw anytime, beat the number 2 team in the nation.
You did get hit. I mean...
Oh, yeah. Well, certainly I got hit that way.
Why would Frank McGuire say that you could have hit yourself?
He was probably trying to protect his boys or something. I'm sure he had some motive, but, you know, I think the film and all was obvious that I was hit. But, you know, that's beside the point. Like I say, anytime I beat the number 2 team in the country by somebody hitting me, they can hit me again. That,
of course, came at Maryland sometime later, and in fact, the beginning of part of this year. And we've got some film of the slowdown game here at Maryland, the one that you took the halftime lead by a point and then went on to win it. And these are films of the first half.
Right.
When did you conceive all this?
We didn't really. We were just going to take our time on offense and, you know, wait and get a real good shot. And but you can see right here that South Carolina is the one that's kind of dictating this. Now, if they were out there guarding White, he'd have to do something. But they weren't going to guard him. So, you know, if I'm playing the number 2 team in the nation and they don't want to play with me, I'll go into the last minute behind by 1 point and hope I can take the last shot and win. And I think any coach would do that. So that was the last shot of the first half that we made, and we go in at the half leading. So, you know, really South Carolina kind of dictated the game as much as we did.
In the second half, it opened up a bit. Did you expect it to open up more?
Oh, I figured they would come out and get us. Yeah, I didn't think it would continue on like this, but it's still, you know, they kind of lost their momentum a little bit, I think, and they weren't able to press us like they probably would like to have. I think that's a shot right there that won the ball game, wasn't it? No,
yeah,
I tied it up, or maybe that was one that won it. But, you know, I figured they'd come get us, but I think because they had stood around so long, they weren't quite as aggressive as they could have been.
They didn't seem to learn too much either because they went and lost to Virginia in the same sort of a game later on that week.
Right, and then Duke just beat them last week too, so they're having their problems, but they have a tremendous basketball team, and I'm sure that they'll snap out of it.
The whole strategy of slowdown, though, was then talked about after you beat South Carolina, and we asked the people in the street what they thought of slowdown basketball as a strategy, and this is what we found out.
It's not a good strategy for the fans. However, if you're out to win, obviously Maryland is. Against a team like South Carolina, it's just great strategy.
Oh, I didn't mind that so much. I thought it was a pretty exciting ball game.
Anything that'll win a game, I think, counts.
I was disappointed especially during the second half, but you know, when it turned out, it wasn't a basketball game, but it was a strategy.
Well, he's interested in winning. That may be the only way.
I watched the game against South Carolina, and I liked it. It was very nice.
Well, to me, it's not a slowdown. It's just one of the things that's getting the best in the sport.
Would you use that again?
Oh, yeah, if I thought we could win with it, I would. You know, I don't know if we could win again with it. We may be able to. You know, if a team plays a zone and we don't have to play against the zone if we don't want to, you know, we can pull that, we can just hang on to the ball, and we may do that some more before the year's over. And if they don't want to play us, then we'll sit out there and hold it. Now, I'm not, if I was the favorite team, I wouldn't do that. But in a situation that we're in this year, we're playing teams that they got bigger personnel and maybe better personnel than we have. We may sit out there and hold a little bit.
We'll come back, have a final word, maybe on the relationship that you have with your players.
I'm not the kind of coach that, you know, the boys come in and say, come on, coach, let's go up to the corner and have a beer. You know, they wouldn't say that to me. Or they would, you know, they'd come over my house and you know, watch television, or I'd give them ice cream and cake, or, you know, or something. But I don't think that you can, you know, get in there and be a buddy with the kid and then expect to criticize him on the court, because I'm going to criticize him. I criticize Malloy. He's, I think, maybe the second best player in the country right now, but I jump on him in practice when he makes a mistake, or he's not going to improve. So, I mean, I think I have to stay a little bit distant from my players, but I think they all feel that I'll go to war for them if something's wrong, you know, if they're getting a raw deal anywhere in life.
Would that sum up your feelings toward relationship with players?
I think so. You know, I think that I get along with my players pretty good. I think you have to, but it's not a popularity contest like General Patton, I don't think, was real popular with all of his men. I've read some articles recently where some of John Wooden's players have criticized him about different things. I have made some mistakes in coaching and some mistakes in handling men, but I've always tried to be fair, and you know, we've had some discipline problems this year, but I've had to handle them, but I've tried to do them, you know, what I thought was fair, and sometimes I've called on a team to help me make a decision on things like this.
Have you had a discipline problem this year that's unique? Or
no, not unique, but I mean, you know, little things that have come up every now and then, and a lot of times sometimes I think I'm unfair, and I'll say, okay, boys, y'all vote on it. Tell me what you think.
Have they voted this year?
Yeah, they voted on several things, you know.
Did you win?
Well, I always win. See, I just ask their opinion. I don't always go by it, but I ask their opinion, and because sometimes I can be too harsh, you know.
Thank you very much for coming.
Well,
appreciate it.
Thank you, Maury.
Next week, after a week's rest in California, the head Redskin, George Allen, comes back, and we'll try to collar him.